Honorable Deputy Chief Whip of the Eastern Cape Provincial Legislature and the delegation from our provincial parliament in Bisho. Let me take this opportunity once again to extend my profound greetings of this new year to the stakeholders of education that have been presented so well in this important session of Parliament. Deputy Chief Whip, as you know, that a meeting like this constitutes a committee of the whole House of Parliament. I must also take this opportunity, therefore, to welcome everybody in furtherance of what we have done, that we are here to tackle a very serious matter called education. And I want to invite everyone to contribute, not only as fault finders, but as solution providers. Eli lizwe alisafuni bantu baninzi abazawubalula ingxaki kuphela. This country now needs men and women of salt and stamina to provide solutions to our own society. We are inviting you also to be critical and examine our successes and failures at the same time. But when we leave this institution, it must be better than what we are experiencing as we are here this morning. Because we respect that education, Honorable Martin, is the equalizer. This is the only agenda that will take the sons of the slaves and the sons of the slave masters to the land of their desired expectations. And therefore, education, as we are sitting here, must promote critical thinking. And if we do so, 99 of the country's problems shall have been solved. This is our annual pilgrimage. Each and every year we are here for a reason, Deputy Chief Whip. The reason we are here, Honorable Sondaba, is because we are here to add and contribute in advancing education objectives. And together to appreciate, as I said, successes and reputations, challenges, and to say, because of you and your human endeavors, this district is much more better. We are able to produce men and women who can be in charge of the industries of this area, of government, of our communities, well learned. From the curriculum and curriculum planners that are present here must also see that reality dawning. We are here also to assess, just to check with you education owners, the classroom performance. Because if we are failing to do so, even if we can build schools, honorable members, they become decent by decoration. But if classroom is non-functional, it will be like a flask that is broken inside. Nothing else you can do. No warmth it can provide. We are also here to ensure that the school environment is conducive for learning, day one. The management and administration of the schools is perfect and is perfected because of our support. The parental involvement and stakeholder participation is guaranteed, looking towards our infrastructure, whether it's succeeding or it's dilapidating, and what may be the reasons, and what kind of injunctions we can put in place to forestall the collapse and dilapidation. Together here, we are going to see and evaluate the resource allocation. Are we correct in Parliament to appropriate a budget that is close to 40 billion? But when we are sitting here in this district, it doesn't manifest. We can't see where those resources are going. And together with you, the departmental support, we need to measure and we need to see the delays in transfers, if there is such, that may cripple education delivery, the safety and security of our schools, the attendance, the discipline of our learners, the discipline of education providers, and everybody else that is supposed to impact positive resource support to education. This is the Apex department. This is the most funded department nationally as well as in the province. And the meaning of that, honorable members, is that we need to activate our society to take keen interest and participation in its oversight. We are an oversight institution created by the statute, law, and the constitution. We decided to do this work annually, twice per annum as the Eastern Cape Legislature. As Pelelu Zango January, because we want to see you and greet you because it is January. In July, we will be here once again. We want to see schools that we never visited, District Director, so that they can also reap the rewards of a quicker decision making that at times we normally provide. Because what we pick up here as the legislature, we're in a position to communicate quickly and directly with the Superintendent General and the MEC of the department, because some of the things require our own decisions. A member, a leader, a manager that is indecisive is crippling institutions. If you don't know, ask those that are knowing. If you are debilitating with the power of taking a decision, you are creating a problem and a log jam, even to deliver a desk in a school, a stationery. We were happy to hear that at least schools receive stationery. This is what we want to know and want to see, because learners must have books in front of them, textbooks and so on. If not, what are the plans to remedy the situation? I think, Chairperson, in short words, we are here to converse together, not because this is a compliance issue, but it is because this is what we're supposed to do as education owners of this area, meaning that you're sitting in front of me. Please take courage, without fear or favor, to distill the facts, ensuring that education is succeeding in this district. Thank you very much, Chair.
Kodwa ke MEC, it does not exonerate your director
No,
who respond to the issues that have been raised here.
Yeah, no sesivele. Manithatha lithuba ndibulise kuwe, ndibulise ku Deputy Speaker, amalungu eParlamente, honorable councillors ezikhoyo, utata umfundisi nabanye inkokheli zenkonzo ngabe zikhona apha, senior managers, political leadership from political parties, representatives of labor, school principals, wonke umuntu okhoyo apha molweni. Good afternoon. Ndabona emetro kuthethwa isiXhosa funeka ukhumshe nakabulisayo. Good afternoon and happy new year. Let me appreciate and welcome the report and take note of where there are areas where it says completed. And there are many of those completed. I think that is a demonstration of some progress since those visits that were undertaken. But the only thing which I think the honorable member was referring to was that perhaps we need to change. Instead of doing an assessment in 2022, knowing very well that we're gonna build in 2024, there is a case of 2025. You know, the conditions might have changed at that time. And therefore, sometimes we do that so that we can answer here, that at least an assessment was done. And yet we don't need assessment, we need delivery. And therefore there must be a more upfront response to say we don't have it. Rather than to assess, knowing very well that you'll have to go back and reassess when you're really gonna build. So I'm saying let's just be frank in your true style. And you spoke as if you are retiring next month. You know, somebody who's retiring, you know, no longer mind, nobody's gonna take him to a DC But I know you have been very, very professional always, and I do appreciate. I think there are issues of police. I also like the point you raised that policy must not be blind, on the issue of scholar transport. The district director is here. There will be these interactions that will have to see what is possible. That the terrain is dangerous, though the kilometers are less. And therefore, policy must be able to appreciate those and provide the necessary support in terms of scholar transport. And yeah, I've taken the issues of community safety and the important role of Amabuto. And how do we use community works program, EPWP, for all necessary work? Because to provide security and to fight against lawlessness becomes a necessary work that we must do. And SAPS cannot succeed on its own. And that is what at the heart of our own provincial safety strategy, to ensure that we involve communities in protecting the schools, because these schools belong to communities. And there is Ikwelo Letu in our campaign, whose theme says, Musa ukuthula kusonakala. Don't keep quiet while things that are going wrong, which is at the heart of what has gone wrong in society. People keep quiet whilst their own things are being destroyed in front of them. And as we always say, that Amapara are not coming from the trees, are not falling from the trees. All these criminals, they belong to families, and perhaps we need to have something like the campaign against the pit bulls. We just call for all families to bring forward their own paras. Bring your para as you bring forward your pit bull. Because, the point is, families must take responsibility around these issues. We're focused on this area because both Nelson Mandela, Buffalo City, and OR Tambo are the hotspots in terms of the levels of crime in the province. And we're using those statistics to dedicate more resources and more time in this area. And I've been here already 2 times, and we're going to come back again. And the raids that we're doing are not going to be a seasonal thing, that we're doing it because we're approaching the festive season. We're going to continue with these raids, announced and unannounced, to ensure that we root out these criminals in the midst of our communities. And the district director will speak to these issues. We have made an effort to arrest the possible strike by the scholar transport operators. We have reached an agreement with them. We have secured money which we're going to use to pay them up until the end of this financial year. And we had to facilitate an overdraft, which is not something easily granted in government to a department, because people are saying, why didn't you do this all along? It could not have been easy. We've been asked to reprioritize as a department, asked other departments to reprioritize and surrender the funds that they are not going to spend. After all those things were done, we could only get 20 million, and yet we needed 378 million for this period. So we had then to go back to say, here we are. But our attitude is that this arrangement, we can't have a situation where we have this crisis year in, year out. It can't work like that. I do know that it is like that precisely because there's been, no consequences for wrongdoing. Some in the department are responsible for wrongdoing that has taken place, including the whole issue that we've got a verification report verifying kilometers and the number of kids, which was done in 2020, so that you address issues of overpayment and underpayment. All anomalies are in that report, but it has not been implemented. So the attitude that I've taken, that the HOD then must give me a report why he has not acted on those that you are supposed to act on. If he fails to act, I'll have to act against him. That there is no negotiations about it. Because this has to stop, including the whole issue of corrupt elements that are involved in the scholar transport issue. So we want to defeat that because we're saying, you know, we must come to a point where we stop this thing. And the last point is to say we appealing for all of us. I would have thought that even the scholar transport operators or the representatives of them in the industry would have been here because it's quite an important meeting for them to, maybe we must invite them if we don't invite them, those who transport the learners. The approach, our attitude is that all of us must follow due process and rule of law. Whilst it's regrettable the fact that they have not been paid, and it was wrong of us not to pay them, but there is nothing that can justify to infringe other people's rights. They have no rights to shut down. No one has a right to shut down any part of the country and any part of the province. That is the message that we're putting forward. And it's important, therefore, that all of us, we must discourage and preach that gospel. Discourage, whether it's communities, honorable members, who are aggrieved. No one is to use a truck and block the road. It's wrong. It infringes on other people's rights. It destroys an already, bleeding economy of the country, which can result to closure of many factories, closure of many, job opportunities. The district director will speak to this, the detail in terms of the requests that were being raised here. I would imagine that some can be arranged so that there can be a discussion with a specific school on the matter, but she will respond to those issues. Those are the comments I wanted to make, and apologize that I've got to leave in a few minutes' time for another engagement. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope that
1,600 learners from 25 schools. Interaction between the Department of Transport and Education, we informed that the numbers that were approved for Nelson Mandela were 5,035. We assume that because it's not the 103 learners that were submitted to the department, we assume that there's about 632 more learners that we will have to ferry. So I'm mentioning this so that in the critical areas, the MEC has given a directive, we are able to make provision for that. The second one is that in this change in terms of numbers, there are currently 588 learners that we are not ferried. The schools affected is Love, Mopak, Elufefeni, and Siapambili. I'm not sure whether they are part of the 632 that is still coming, but there are those learners that are affected. There's an issue that the Department of Education needs to look at when it comes to Elufefeni, because the learners are those that were supposed to go to the new school. So I think it's an issue of the learners not appearing in SAMS, so you need to sort that out, yeah. Then there's a mention in the report of 901 learners from Kucha. There's a directive, a political directive from the MEC on that the department must waive. I think the policy is of 5 kilometers, but it's still dependent on the Department of Education whether you prioritize these learners. But I am going to take this forward in the report that we'll be submitting to the department, that there's a directive on this particular school, which doesn't qualify in terms of the 5 kilometers. So we'll have a bilateral, my office and your office, about this. The area that I want to talk to, Umama mentioned a school, KwaNoxolo, where it's unsafe for learners. She was not specific to say those are primary or high school learners, but currently within that area, we are ferrying learners to Izanulwandle, KwaMaxaki. We're also ferrying primary school learners to Springs and to Dispatch. So if we can get a directive from the department, which school is that? Is the school affected that she mentions, is it affected by the policy issue, so that we may apply the same directive by the MEC to that school within KwaNoxolo? I think, Chairperson, I've tried to sum up. Thank you.
Nana. Thank you very much. Thank you. Mama, leader. consider nenzela uba if